Welcome to episode 5 of A Drink with James. This is actually number 2 for me this afternoon. Unfortunately, I don't have any weird alternative modes of transportation today for y'all to laugh at me while I do them. But we're looking into stuff, you know? We might film one on a hot air balloon. I might jump out of a fucking plane. Maybe I can bungee jump. I could get one of those like squirrel suits, flying squirrel suit things that the Red Bull nutcases do. We're gonna elevate this. We're gonna keep elevating the series. It's gonna get crazier and crazier. I'm hoping The Rock will join me one day. If you're watching, Dwayne Johnson, I love you. I love your Instagram. I would really like for you to be on this show. So yeah. First thing, right now Snapchat doesn't play a huge role in influencer marketing. Big part of that is because there's not a huge amount of insight the brands can get into what your following is, engagement, things like that. I mean, even Snapchat users, you don't know. Pro tip, you can email Snapchat and they will give you your follower count if you email them. So they will do that. But moving on. Snapchat is not going away. If you are an influencer and you're not focused on it, I think you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And for me, the way I think about it is like, what's the first apps that we open every morning? And those ones become more and more important. And I see more and more people who are opening Snapchat, first thing in the morning. They're opening Snapchat when their friend goes to the bathroom at a restaurant. It's the thing that you're kind of checking every day to see what your friends are up to. That generally means that it's going to become more and more important on the brand side and on the influencer side. So I would definitely say you should focus on it. I wouldn't worry too much about making money on it right now. Just try and get your following from Instagram or your blog or YouTube or Facebook. Wherever you have a following, get that following to migrate over to Snapchat as soon as you can. Amber, you asked a good question. Basically, how do we start to monetize our following without losing on the bigger opportunities for the larger brands who maybe aren't ready to pay you? First of all, you should check out Amber's Instagram feed. Tim's gonna put it right there. Super consistent, nice looking feed, first of all, like congratulations, it looks great. Following is at about 35,000, which is at this interesting point where you feel like it's certainly interesting and it's a large following. It's nothing to kind of balk at, but it's not quite at the level yet where it's impactful for large brands. So, right now, if you were to charge for an Instagram, I'd say you could get, between $3 on the lower end, $500 on the higher end per Instagram post. So, I'm not sure that right now it makes sense to start charging brands when you're at that level. I think if you have the means to, and if you can, continue to just work with brands for trade, to make sure that they are posting your photos on their feeds, and maybe that's kind of the payment, right? So instead of saying, hey, XY brand, give me $300 for this post, maybe instead it's, hey, amazing brand with 500,000 followers on Instagram, I will absolutely do this for no charge, but could you, along with that, basically guarantee that you're going to regram my photo and post it so that you can gain a following? I would look to, at 35,000, I would look to get to 100 within the next 12 months. At 100 grand, you're in a really good position to start capitalizing on your following and making some real money. Yeah, so is there a correlation between blogger success and where they're located? I think there definitely used to be. When we started 4Card, a big part of it was that brands only worked with 50 influencers, right? It was kind of the top influencers in the world, and every brand worked with them, and that's how they found them. And it felt really unfair because we knew that there were influencers all over the country. There were people all over the world who were doing interesting things, and brands potentially want to work with them, but there was just no access. And so the only way as a influencer, or back then we called them bloggers, the only way for them to get work was to be in New York City It was to know the PR person at KCD or HL Group or PR Consulting, the person who could get you into the brands, could get you that brand work that you needed. If you didn't know those people, you were, for lack of a better term, shit out of luck. We created Forecard to try and alleviate some of that and try to flatten the playing field and tell brands that, yeah, there are a lot of influencers in New York and LA. That makes sense. People want to live there. They want to look at content. I mean, how many of us have, thought about New York City or LA or Paris or London when you were a kid growing up in whatever town that you grew up in? I grew up outside of Atlanta and Georgia, and New York was a bit of a beacon for me, and I always wanted to leave the South. And so if I had Instagram when I was a kid, which I'm not telling you when it was because I'm older than probably half of you, if I had Instagram, then I'd want to follow people that lived in New York City. That's the life I wanted to live. That makes sense. We're in a position now where, because of the internet and some of these tools, Forecard included, I hope, you can build a good following and you can work with brands even if you don't live in those cities. That said, as a final caveat, it's a relationship business like any other business in the world. And at some point, you're going to want to meet these people. They're going to want to meet you. And even if you're an up-and-coming blogger, coming to New York even once a year and trying to book a week of meetings and meeting the brand people and going out to drinks with them and going to dinner and breakfasts and having meetings and getting them to know you and actually speak to you is something that will pay dividends for the entire year. So I would encourage all of you, if you can, to come to New York City, to try and meet brand people, to go to events, to get your name out there, because it's, again, end of the day, it is still a relationship business, and building those relationships is difficult and it takes a little bit of work, but it does pay off. So, we come to the end again, which for y'all means that you don't have to watch anymore. For me, it means I have to drink the rest of this whiskey in one fell swoop. I will say again, as I do always, ask me questions. You can comment down somewhere around here. I'm not sure how this looks on Facebook, but you can comment on Facebook, ask me questions. You can ask on Twitter. You can ask on Instagram. You can send a fucking carrier pigeon. I don't really care. I'll try and answer it if it's a good question. Cheers.